everybody, it's your girl, the Sweet Physique, and I am back for another Sip and Share car ride talk. I do have my Stanley Cup. Here's my water. So today's topic is something that I feel like is actually very overlooked. It affects everything, but people really don't think about it, especially in real time. So it's intent versus impact. So in every situation that happens, there's always the intent and the impact. So the intent being, what was your goal behind what you said and or did? And with that being said, it's more so like, what were you trying to accomplish with your verbiage? What were you trying to accomplish with your actions? What was your goal behind that? How did you want the other person to feel and or receive your information and message? Intent. What was the goal? What were you aiming for? And then there's impact. There is the part of the situation where it focuses on how did your verbiage and or actions impact or affect the other party, or you and your relationship with the other party. It focuses on that component of it and kind of airing out or adding light to how the other person received your message or your actions. Both of those are really important because you can't have one without the other. Now, I do have to point out that sometimes your intent does not match the impact and or the results of the situation. And that's okay, because we have to accept in life that nobody thinks exactly like us on everything. People have their own opinions. People receive information differently. People internalize things differently. Some people hear stuff and they're like, okay, 2 seconds later. Other people harp on it or really ponder over information. So people just literally, their brain just is wired differently to hear things and receive things differently. Now, no matter what your intentions are, one important lesson, and this is something that I had to work on in my adulthood, is that no matter what your intentions were, you have to accept whatever the impact is on the other party. And what I mean by that is, sometimes you can have great intentions, you can have constructive intentions, you can have intentions to hash something out and to, gain clarity or get peace on something. Your intentions may be great in a situation, but the other person may not receive it that way off of just initially hearing what you're saying or seeing what you're doing. And so in that situation, even if you're coming from a good place, it is important to acknowledge what the other person is telling you. They're like, hey, you kind of ruffled my feathers with what you just said. Or like, hey, I'm not really sure what you meant by that statement, because that didn't sound right to me. That's not resonating well with me. What's going on with that statement? And so in a situation such as that, it's important to be like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that that's how it came off when I said that. Or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you or, ruffle your feathers or anything of what I just said. That by no means was that my intention. So definitely acknowledging how the other party has told you that they feel about said information is important, so the other person feels seen and valued in the conversation. Now, that is something, there's a fine line with that. There is acknowledging and or apologizing for how you made someone feel. That is different than apologizing for how someone is choosing to take the information after the conversation has already happened about what you meant. And this is what I mean. An example. I could say to somebody, hey, you should come work out with me. I think you would really benefit from working out in the gym and making that a part of your daily regimen or weekly regimen. Person A, can hear that and be like, yo, she's really trying to motivate me to get in the gym, to go hard, you know what I'm saying, to take my health, seriously or more seriously. Like, this is great. This is the motivation that I needed. Someone else can hear the exact same words and take something negative out of that and be like, so are you trying to say that I'm fat? Are you trying to say that I'm lazy? I don't work out? What are you saying? Two different responses of internalizing information based off what I just said. My intent was to be motivational, to be like, hey, let's get it cracking in the gym. Like, let's go. Let's go hard. Let's, be as healthy as possible. I still have to take responsibility for person B taking it as me coming for them as being lazy or potentially calling them fat. I'm sorry, I definitely did not mean to make you feel that way. I was not trying to call you fat. I'm sorry for offending you. After having that conversation, if the other party is still insistent upon you meaning that you wanted to make them feel like they were fat, I don't think anybody should have to apologize for something that they did not mean. I'm not calling you fat. I'm sorry for that coming off that way and coming off as rude. I definitely was not trying to do that. But I'm not apologizing for calling you fat because I never did. And sometimes people want you to apologize for how they are insistent upon taking information when you never actually said those words. So that's why I feel like having a conversation is important, because it can air out what you meant. I feel like in this world, most people kind of teeter to one side or the other. Intent is more of their focus on trying to get the reasoning behind and kind of focusing and dwelling and living in that. And then some people kind of dwell more on the impacts and how they felt after a situation. Me personally, I focus more on intent. The reason why I think, for me personally, I focus more on that is because I'm a person that wants to know the why behind stuff. I can get over something a lot quicker, and get our friendship back on track as far as on me, like not harping on something that you did, letting it go, if I can know that you were coming from a good place. Because a lot of people, in the heat of the moment, they don't say stuff in the best way possible. Their phrasing is poor. Sometimes they have a tone in their voice because they're frustrated or whatever the situation may be. And that comes off and affects your message negatively, highlighting things that you may not have meant to really highlight. It's just background noise because you're frustrated in the middle of this conversation. But after hearing you out, knowing that that's what that was and this is what you meant by it, I could take that a lot better and move on a lot quicker, because I know there was no ill intent, there was no malice behind what you did. If I'm talking to you and your goal was to just hurt my feelings, you felt like I disrespected you, so you want to be even Stevens out here, I can't get with that. And that's when the intent is lost on me, and now I'm kind of just questioning, what are we doing here? Because that's not the energy I need in my life. Sometimes I've noticed when you focus too much on just the impact and you don't ask for clarity, that's when there's a lot of miscommunication, or there's a lot of assumption on how or there's a lot of assumption on what another person meant, and you view them negatively based off of how they made you feel, when really that may be their personality, or maybe it's not their personality, they just poorly communicated what was going on. But either way it goes, both have to I feel like to effectively move on from A to B in any situation. And even if you're coming from a good intent, you have to own the impact, because everybody receives information differently. Everybody has different triggers. Everybody has different viewpoints or different life experiences that make them feel differently on the same topic that we're all discussing. So with that being said, I just feel like you take nothing else away from this conversation. Just realize that there's always intent and there's always impact. And no matter which side you kind of teeter to as far as what's more important to you, just always remember it may not be as simple as being black and white. Sometimes a conversation is needed to really know where a person is coming from in order to make a decision about how you want to move forward with them. Hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. See y'all later.